Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're cracking open a really powerful idea how tiny, almost invisible adjustments can lead to massive success. We're talking about the framework known as atomic habits.
That's right. And our mission today, well, it's pretty focused. We're looking at a system designed to help you rewire your behavior, not through, sheer willpower, but by making progress so straightforward, success becomes almost inevitable for you.
And this whole thing hinges on compounding, doesn't it? We hear about compound interest with money, but this idea applies everywhere. It's like, think about a plane flying from LA to New York.
Right.
If that pilot shifts course by just 3.5 degrees south, tiny change. Right, you wouldn't even notice. But you don't land in New York anymore.
Right. You end up way off. Washington, D.C. in that example, hundreds of miles away.
Exactly.
And that small, 1% shift day after day, that's what creates that huge gap between where you are and where you could be. Productivity, it compounds. You master one tiny organizational trick, and it builds.
Knowledge, too, right. Like Warren Buffett always says.
Absolutely. And relationships, trust. It all compounds from those tiny interactions over years, keeping small promises or breaking them. It goes both ways.
Okay, but if it's so powerful, why do so many of us feel like we're just spinning our wheels, starting over again every January? Where does that compounding chain, break?
Well, often it breaks because people quit just before the breakthrough.
Yeah.
They hit what's sometimes called the valley of disappointment.
The valley of disappointment.
Yeah, we expect progress to be linear, put in work, get results immediately. But it doesn't usually work like that. Results are often delayed, so you put in weeks, maybe months, you don't see much.
And you get discouraged.
Exactly. You think this isn't working and you stop right before the big change might have happened.
That reminds me of the ice cube analogy. It's perfect for this. You've got an ice cube, room heats up, 25 degrees, 28, 30, 31, still just a block of ice. Nothing seems to be happening.
Right.
But then that 1 degree shift, 32. And boom, a huge change. It starts melting.
And the key takeaway there is that all that energy, all that effort from 25 to 31 degrees, it wasn't wasted. It was being stored. Potential energy, just waiting for that tipping point. And that brings us neatly to this idea of systems over goals. We get so fixated on goals. I want to run a marathon. I want to lose 20 pounds.
Yeah, we all do it.
But goals, see, they only change your life for that moment you achieve them. Think about the marathon runner. They cross the finish line. Now what?
The goal's gone. So the motivation
Often disappears too.
Right.
Many stop training because the anchor, the goal, is gone. The system that got them there vanishes with the finish line.
And there's another problem too, isn't there? Focusing only on the outcome, it kind of postpones happiness.
Totally. You're basically saying, I'll be happy when I hit this number on the scale or when I get that promotion, instead of enjoying the process, the journey itself.
Falling in love with the system, not just the result.
That's the core insight. Fix the inputs, the system, and the outputs. Well, they tend to take care of themselves. Design the system that leads to the results you want. Then you can feel good every time you run the system, not just when you hit some distant target.
So the system is the how, but what about the why?
Yeah.
You mentioned identity change being crucial. That's the North Star.
Exactly. It's shifting from what result do I want to who do I wish to become.
I love that analogy you used. Every action is like a vote for the kind of person you want to be.
It really reframes everything, doesn't it? Read one page, that's a vote for being a reader. Take the stairs, a vote for being an active person.
So your identity isn't fixed. It emerges from these tiny daily votes, these microevolutions.
Precisely.
Okay, so if identity is where we're heading, what's the actual engine? What's the psychological model that makes these changes happen?
Right, the mechanism. It's a four-step loop that underlies basically every habit. Cue, craving, response, and reward.
Okay. Cue, craving, response, reward.
It builds on older ideas, sure, but the beauty is seeing habits as these mental shortcuts. They automate behavior, which reduces our cognitive load.
Frees up brain power.
Yeah, frees up your conscious mind so you're not constantly deciding whether to, brush your teeth or put on your seatbelt. You can focus on harder problems.
Automating the basics. So those 4 steps, cue, craving, response, reward, they lead to the practical tools, right? The 4 laws of behavior change.
Exactly. That's the toolkit. To build a good habit, you ask, how do I make the cue obvious? How to make the craving attractive? How do I make the response easy? And how do I make the reward satisfying?
Make it obvious, attractive, easy, satisfying. Got it.
So let's start with law 1. Make it obvious. Before you can change habits, you got to be aware of them. A lot of failures aren't about laziness. They're just lack of awareness about what triggers our current behaviors. Many are subconscious.
It's wild how experts see things others miss, like that story about the paramedic.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Incredible.
Recognizing that tiny change in someone's face color, predicting a heart attack just from, like, blood redistribution signs that are invisible to most people.
Their brain has cataloged those subtle cues over thousands of hours. We need to kind of do that for ourselves, audit our own triggers.
So how do we make our good habit cues obvious? What's the practical step?
Well, the first big one is nailing down the when and where. Psychologists call it an implementation intention.
Implementation intention. Okay.
It's just a concrete plan. There was this study, right? People who just filled in a sentence. During the next week, I will exercise on day, at time, and place.
Simple sentence.
Super simple. But they stuck to their plan at more than double the rate of the control group. Just being specific makes a huge difference. 91% compliance in that group, I think.
Wow, just from writing it down with specifics, that structure alone is powerful. What else for making it obvious?
Habit stacking. This was really useful. You pair a new habit you want to build with a current habit that's already reliable.
Ah, okay, piggybacking.
Exactly. The formula is basically, after I current habit, I will new habit. So after I pour my morning coffee, I will meditate for 60 seconds.
Why does that work so well? It feels easier somehow.
Because you're harnessing momentum. You're already doing the first action, the coffee, reliably. Adding the next thing right after just flows better. It taps into this thing called the Diderot effect, how getting one new thing can trigger a cascade of related actions. We want that cascade to be positive.
Makes sense. And the last piece for making it obvious seems huge. Our surroundings, environment design.
Oh, critical. Remember, behavior is a function of the person in their environment. B equals F of P, E.
Right.
And think about it. Something like 10 million of our 11 million sensory receptors are for vision. Visual cues are incredibly powerful drivers of behavior.
So we need to deliberately set up our space for success.
You absolutely have to architect your environment, like that famous cafeteria study, Dr. Ann Thorndike's work.
Right, the water bottle one.
Yeah. They didn't lecture anyone about drinking less soda. They just made water more obvious. Put bottled water in baskets right by the cash registers next to the soda.
And the results were pretty dramatic, weren't they?
Stunning. Soda sales dropped over 11%. Water sales jumped almost 26%. All without changing anyone's mind or motivation directly. Just making the better choice the obvious choice.
Okay, so making it obvious is step one. But just seeing the cue isn't enough, right? We need to want to do it. Law 2. Make it attractive.
Exactly. And this is all about dopamine.
The reward chemical. But there's a twist, right? It's not just about getting the reward.
No, that's the common misconception. Dopamine is released heavily in anticipation of a reward. That anticipation is what really drives motivation. Think of a gambler, the dopamine spikes when they see the slot machine or the poker chips before they even place a bet. It's the promise of the reward.
Ah, so anticipation is the engine. How do we leverage that? How do we make, say, exercise or flossing seem attractive?
Well, one really effective strategy is temptation bundling.
Temptation bundling. Okay, sounds interesting.
You pair something you need to do with something you genuinely want to do. The formula is like, after I do habit I need, I will get to do habit I want.
Oh, I love that example of the engineering student, Ronan Byrne.
The Netflix bike.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
He hacked his exercise bike so Netflix would only stream if he was cycling above a certain speed.
He linked the chore, cycling, directly to the reward he craved, watching Netflix.
Yeah.
Made the exercise irresistible, or at least much less resistible.
Clever. What else makes habits attractive?
Don't underestimate the social angle. The pull of social norms is incredibly powerful. We're fundamentally herd animals. We want to fit in.
So if our friends are doing it.
We're much more likely to do it too. There was that long 32-year study. It found a person's chance of becoming obese jumped by 57% if they had a close friend who became obese.
Wow, 57%.
Yeah. We imitate the habits of people close to us, people in our tribe, and also people we admire or see as successful. So surrounding yourself with people who have the habits you want is a powerful way to make those habits more attractive to you.
Okay, so we've made it obvious, made it attractive. Now, law 3. Make it easy. This feels very practical.
It is. It taps into a fundamental human trait, the law of least effort. We naturally gravitate towards the option that requires the least amount of work. So the goal here isn't about boosting your motivation sky high.
It's about reducing friction.
Exactly. Like if water flow is weak because your garden hose is kinked, you don't fix it by cranking up the water pressure to the motivation. You just unkink the hose, remove the friction. We need to make the desired behavior as frictionless as possible.
How do we do that? How do we reduce the friction for good habits?
Well, one counterintuitive idea is focusing on quantity over quality, especially at the start.
Quantity over quality, that sounds wrong.
I know, but think about that University of Florida photography class
Well,
experiment.
yeah, the two
Oh,
groups.
right. One group was graded purely on the volume of photos they submitted. 100 photos got an A, 90 a B, and so on. The other group graded on the quality of a single perfect photo.
And the quantity group actually produced the better pictures in the end.
All the best photos came from the quantity group. Why? Because they weren't paralyzed by perfectionism. They just took tons of photos, experimented, learned from mistakes, and got reps in. New habits need frequency first. Get the reps in. Perfection can come later.
So just show up and do it, even imperfectly.
Which leads directly to the 2-minute rule. This one's golden.
Okay.
Scale down any new habit so it takes 2 minutes or less to complete. Read before bed becomes read 1 page. Do 30 minutes of yoga becomes take out my yoga mat.
Run 3 miles becomes put on my running shoes.
Exactly. The point isn't the 2 minutes itself. The point is mastering the art of showing up. You have to standardize the habit of starting before you can optimize it. It's about casting that vote for your identity, even if it feels ridiculously small at first.
Standardize before you optimize. Like that. And we can flip this too, right? Make bad habits harder.
Absolutely. The inversion is make it difficult. This is where commitment devices come in.
Commitment devices. Like pre-committing to something.
Yeah, it's a choice you make now that locks in better behavior later. The classic example is Victor Hugo, facing a deadline for The Hunchback of Notre Dame.
He locked away his clothes.
He had his assistant lock away all his clothes, leaving him only a large shawl. He literally couldn't go outside, so he was forced to stay in and write.
That's extreme, but effective.
It is, but think about modern versions. Setting up automatic transfers to your savings account, deleting social media apps from your phone, using software to block distracting websites. These are one-time choices that automate good behavior or add friction to bad behavior long-term.
Okay, obvious, attractive, easy. That leaves the final law, Law 4, make it satisfying.
And this might be the most important one for making habits stick. It boils down to the cardinal rule of behavior change. What is immediately rewarded gets repeated. What is immediately punished gets avoided.
Immediately. That's the key word, isn't it?
It really is. The big challenge we face in modern life is the delayed return mismatch.
Explain that. Delayed return mismatch.
Our brains evolved in what you could call an immediate return environment. Our ancestors were focused on immediate threats and rewards. Find food now. Escape the predator now. Find shelter now.
Survival depended on the present moment.
Right. But we now live mostly in a delayed return environment. You work hard at your job today for a paycheck in 2 weeks. You save money now for retirement decades away. You exercise today for health benefits months or years down the line.
So the rewards for good habits like working out or saving are often far off in the future, while the rewards for bad habits, eating junk food, scrolling social media, are immediate.
Precisely. And our immediate gratification-seeking brain struggles with that mismatch. Good habits often feel like a sacrifice now for a reward later. Bad habits feel like a reward now causing problems later. The brain naturally prioritizes now.
So how do we overcome that? If the real reward is delayed, how do we make a good habit satisfying now?
We need to find a way to attach some form of immediate satisfaction to the good habit. Give yourself a win right away.
But wait, if we just give ourselves immediate treats for doing good things, aren't we just training ourselves to need those treats? Does it undermine the long-term discipline needed for things like, say, sticking to a budget? Is there a risk there?
That's a really important question. And the answer is yes, there's a risk if the immediate reward conflicts with a long-term goal. You don't want to reward yourself for exercising with a giant ice cream sundae if your goal is weight loss.
Right, that cancels it out.
The key is the reward needs to be immediate, but also non-conflicting. It should reinforce the identity you're trying to build, or at least not sabotage it. Think about that hand-washing study in Karachi, Pakistan.
Okay.
Public health officials knew people understood why hand-washing was important, but consistency was low. The long-term health benefits were too delayed.
So what did they do?
They partnered with Procter & Gamble to provide Safeguard soap, a soap designed to feel premium, lather well, smell great. Suddenly, the act of washing hands itself became more pleasurable, more immediately satisfying on a sensory level.
Ah, so the reward was the pleasant experience itself.
Exactly. Compliance rates for hand washing shot up. The immediate sensory satisfaction bridged the gap until the long-term health benefits kicked in. Finding those small, immediate reinforcing rewards is key.
That makes a lot of sense. Find a reward that feels good now and aligns with who you want to become. And on the flip side, for bad habits, we use the inversion, make it immediately unsatisfying.
Right. If a bad habit has an immediate cost, you're less likely to do it. This is where something like a habit contract can be really powerful.
A formal agreement.
Yeah, often with an accountability partner. You state the habit you want to change, and you define a clear, immediate, and usually painful consequence if you fail.
Like that entrepreneur, Brian Harris.
Oh yeah, his contract was intense. He wanted to lose weight, track his food. His contract stated if he failed, he had to pay his trainer $200 and wear an Alabama hat, his rival team, for the rest of the day.
Ouch. Financial pain and public shame.
Exactly. The cost was immediate and very motivating for him. It makes the consequence of slipping up feel real now, not just some vague future problem.
And even with all these systems, we're human. We'll slip up sometimes. What's the advice there?
The crucial rule is never miss twice.
Never miss twice.
Missing one workout, eating one unhealthy meal, slipping up once it happens, it's an anomaly, but missing twice in a row. That's the start of a new negative pattern. The real key isn't being perfect. It's getting back on track as quickly as possible after a stumble. Don't let one missed vote turn into a landslide the other way.
Rebound quickly. Cast that next positive vote right away.
Exactly. And finally, tying this all back together, make sure the habits you're building align with who you actually are. Your personality, your skills, what you genuinely find enjoyable.
Because if it feels like a total uphill battle against your nature,
It's going to be incredibly hard to make it satisfying, right? Habit change is easier when it feels aligned. Sometimes, if you can't win by being better at something than everyone else, you can win by being different. Combine your unique skills. That differentiation often makes the process itself feel more natural and, well, satisfying.
wow. Okay, so that's the framework. Make it obvious, make it attractive, make it easy, make it satisfying. It really feels like a complete toolkit. You're not just subject to your habits, you can actually be the architect of them, and by extension, the architect of your life, one tiny change at a time.
That's the power of it. And as you start using these tools, just remember the Goldilocks rule. To stay motivated, you need tasks that are, just manageable, challenging enough to be interesting, but not so hard you get discouraged. Roughly 4% beyond your current abilities seems to be the sweet spot.
Keep stretching, but not snapping.
Right. And ultimately, for long-term mastery in anything, you have to learn to find joy, or at least acceptance, in the routine. You have to fall in love with the boredom of practice, of showing up day after day, because your identity isn't fixed. It's always evolving through these tiny actions. So the final thought for you is, what identity are you casting a vote for today?